right, let's get into the graphic novel Planet Hulk as the thunder rains above us.
Yes, Hulk is smashing down.
I have no idea if it's
Thor.
I have no idea if it's going to come through on the mic, but it just did thunder.
Yeah.
So, thunder.
We're
thunder.
storming.
Thundercats. Oh, I don't know. Okay.
Nice.
Anyway, so we're going to review the Planet Hulk graphic novel. Yes, so we're diving into graphic novels a little bit here, and we're going to actually have at least 2 other ones, maybe a third one, possibly. Before the November of Remember November? Something, whatever I came up with.
November to Remember.
There we go. Maybe. But we might start diving into more graphic novels, too, and reviewing them as well when certain movies start coming out.
Yeah.
If they have the tie-in name and all that other bullshit.
Right. Yeah, probably had the timing worked out, and, we would have actually planned our show because Civil War was a thing, and I read the Civil War graphic novel kind of in the same line.
That's what kicked off the show.
Exactly, that's what I mean. So we probably would have done that, but that was the starting point of our show. But that's kind of where we're going with Whole Planet Hulk. As I'm sure everyone who's listening to this has seen the Thor trailer. There's some stuff in there from Planet Hulk, and we're like, you know what? There might be some stuff in there that we can take into the movie and maybe gain some Easter eggs or something like that. Probably not.
Yeah, probably
His armor.
Yeah, his armor.
And maybe the arena.
Maybe. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of Easter eggs. We
Yeah.
will probably now catch a shit ton of Easter eggs now because of this.
Hopefully.
Names and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But characters... Anyway, so we're going to have a spoiler edition. We're just going to talk about this thing in general.
Yeah, I think it's hard not to.
Yeah.
I kind of debated to myself, can I keep it non-spoilerish? And honestly, no.
I can keep it non-spoilerish with one word. Overrated. Holy
Fair.
shit. I'm going to kick this off right off the bat.
Perfect.
All right. I have
segue.
heard a lot of people talk about they wanted a Hulk movie. And I've heard a lot of people talk about Planet Hulk as the Hulk movie. Could be the Hulk movie. And I was like, okay, well, cool. All right. So I've kind of held this graphic novel in not high esteem, but it's up there, right?
Right.
With those other like Watchmen and whatever, Civil War and a couple other graphic novels that are out there. I've been holding it up there like it's one of these ones that you have to at least check out, you know? And so maybe my standards were too high going into this. I have no idea.
That's fair.
I have no idea. It's very interesting. It's a very, very interesting book.
I will say this. I will say check it out for yourself just to read. There's a good story there somewhere in there.
If you like Gladiator from 2000 with Russell Crowe,
it's nothing like that.
put Hulk in there and have Hulk say, "My name is Maximus Aurelius Hulkus," and it's the same fucking thing.
My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the armies of the North, general of the Felix Legions, loyal servant to the true emperor Marcus Aurelius, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance in this life or the next.
Yeah, sort
Almost.
of. Yeah.
Except less incest.
I think we're just to dive into some of the spoiler talk.
Let's get into spoilers.
Where I started getting a little lost was how the book is very choppy. I've read quite a few graphic novels, not a ton, but a good amount of them. I own quite a few graphic novels. And usually there's a certain type of flow to the stories. And obviously these are in most graphic novels. I don't know about Watchmen. I know 300 isn't like this, but in most graphic novels, it's several comic books lumped all into the graphic novel, and that's the same thing with Planet Hulk. There, it'll say
Watchmen
number 100.
Watchmen's a fairly fluid story.
Okay, yeah, and I believe 300 is as well.
Okay.
But this one, that's normal. That's normal kind of choppiness. You get to the end of one part of one comic book, and then boom, you're jumping into the next one. My issue with this one is there was a lot of kind of back and forth, and it was hard for me because of the characters and how they were drawn. It took me all the way to the very end, or close to the very end, to really understand the alliances that people were in. A lot of the characters, it's alien, it's space stuff.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of hard to tell. Okay, well, where do you fall into this? There's the people that Meek, there's his people. And then
his hive.
Yeah, his hive. And then there's the spikes or something like that take over.
Yeah, they're like parasites.
Yeah, and they they almost sort of look the same. Sort of. There's like there is some differences, but I was getting confused as far as like, you know, who aligned with who. And then there's parts where like the Red King, their people, you know, it's like the Pinkies or whatever that Meek kept calling them.
Yeah.
Puny Pinkies, I think is what he kept calling them. And you eventually find out, well, I guess they lay it out there, but basically they are slaves to the Red King. But it's like, because they're all the same people, and then there's other creatures that are fighting that, it was hard for me to tell that.
Go ahead.
Well, it just that the Red King had enslaved basically his own people, and you know, some of them had to join him, but there was also a ton of other people that he enslaved as well, and then he'd make them fight in this gladiator thing. And the story, as it progresses, for me, jumps kind of all over the place, and I think that was part of the detriment as far as, you know, my confusion, you know, and figuring out where people aligned, and you know, they're aliens. So you're trying to get used to each community in that right off the bat. You're not going to be familiar with it as you would with, you know, humanity,
right,
kind of thing. So it's very choppy early on, smooths out towards the end, and then, you know, it's kind of the end.
I disagree with you on that one. We'll get into that in a second. I just kind of want to establish, so the groups of people, the groups of species in this anyway, think of it as like kind of a Roman Empire type thing, where there's civilizations throughout, and then as they broke past borders, their own borders, there's obviously different races that are part of the empire, kind of. And there's these, like, the Meeks or whatever, the Meeks character, which I can't remember exactly what they are, but they're part of a hive. They have 4 arms. There's all different types of hives or different sections of them. They're kind of like bees, and stuff like that. And then there's the Pinkies, as he was calling, but those are like imperial people, imperial citizens, kind of like part of the Roman Empire. They have their own sections, but they're deserted by the king pretty much, and they're on their own. There's like this shadow group that is like these gray-skinned characters. They're kind of another group of people that are like religious in some sense. They're kind of like the religious sector. Then there's these spikes, which are these parasites that get kind of misplaced in the area for the most part. They're supposed to be traveling in a different way, but they get somehow trapped on the planet, and they're basically take over any living organisms they come in contact. And then there's
like the rock guy,
Korg, which he's not actually part of that. He just got stranded there. He's just been picked up. So there's no group of rock guys like him.
No, but it doesn't. He mentioned something because when there's a part that I actually liked, because the flow of the story changes a little bit, and each of them are kind of telling some of their backstory. And the art in the book actually changes. I don't know if they threw in different artists or whatever, but you kind of see. Yeah, there's one with Thor. I think his is with Thor.
Right.
And then, but each of them kind of tell their backstory, and as they're telling their backstory, the look of the pages changes, which I thought that was a really cool concept.
Yeah, I did. I liked that part when they were giving people's backstories, because I thought it was really well done. I thought that part was pretty cool. Then there's like this flying thing with 100 fucking teeth or something like that. It's called like a brood.
Right, yeah.
Brood thing or something like that. It kind of gets lost later on in the book. You almost never even see her again or something like that. She was part of another group of a planet that was destroyed, and she's like one of the remaining survivors.
Right.
Like the only survivor of her planet. So there's just these sections that have been all pretty much deserted by the empire, by basically the city. Think of it as Rome, and Rome has pretty much deserted all these different colonies outside, leaving them up to themselves, and there's discord between each group.
Yeah,
but
kind of what I gathered is they would also capture these people or enslave them in, so to speak, and then they would make them fight each other to the
just
death.
Like Gladiator, the movie,
right?
Yeah.
So and that I liked that concept. I thought that was pretty cool. How Hulk gets to this planet is basically S.H.I.E.L.D. gives him a mission to destroy an AI satellite that ended up going rogue. After the mission, he learns that the heroes, Reed Richards, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, Black Bolt, had a plan to extradite. I think is extricate him from Earth. Or extradite, but in the book they say extricate.
Whatever, they deported him.
Yeah, exactly. And then Reed promises there will be no one there to hurt you and no one you can hurt.
Right.
So it's kind of a plan that's set very early on that, you know, kind of pisses the Hulk off, and then he he's not even supposed to go to this planet. He's supposed to go to a different one.
He starts fucking up the ship and then finds himself into like a portal.
Right. Yeah. So. And then he crash lands on this planet, and the other planet, yes. The other planet he was supposed to go to was just vegetation, and so he could,
wild game.
Yeah, just be himself.
No intelligent life he could hurt. Basically, one of my first paragraphs I put in here for my notes was choppy, incoherent, all over the place. The artwork looks great, but sometimes they don't do the action justice. And because it seems like the artwork gets really nice, bright, and it just seems there's not enough panels to show it. Mm-hmm. It's just like Hulk dives, thing dead. And like you don't get this feel of flow in the action at all. Right. And it just seems like they kind of jump quickly through the action to get back to the part where everybody's standing still. Yeah, but even when they're going from location to location, they jump to that location, then a fight happens, then they jump to the next location. So it's hard to. Basically, what I put was the moments of slow to action are just so abrupt. Yeah, yeah. It goes from no gas to all gas, and it just keeps doing that over and over and over and over again. So it does get a little choppy, and it's not like the story is. I mean, the camaraderie between the guys are kind of keeping you interested a little bit because you have this group of misfits basically, and Hulk is leading this group of misfits for the most part. And they think that he is the Sakaarian savior. Sakaar's son. Yeah. It's like Sakaar with son on the end. Right, yeah. So basically the prophets kind of said, oh, he's supposed to come and save us from enslavement or something like that. And so everyone kind of thinks, oh, this is him. And I did think it was cool that they each had different nicknames for him. There's Green Scar, Two Hands, Green Skin. Hora or something. Holka. Holka. Yeah. Holka. Yeah. So I thought that was kind of cool. It's almost like and then some did call him Hulk. It reminded me of The Walking Dead a little bit because each little community would call the walkers something else, and they would also call him Carson. Or whatever it is. Yeah, Sakaar's son or whatever. Yeah, the people who believes that's who he was. So I liked some of the backstory again that was set up on the first page. And then the part that kind of confused me right off the bat is I was expecting 7 stories to be included in this because they credit 7 different stories. Pretty much the only 2 they got to and they even show is Exile and Banner War. I don't know if maybe the other ones were looped in there and they just didn't title them and say, all right, this is what this one is. So that kind of confused me a little bit. I did like to touch on kind of the action that you were talking about. If it got to a full page panel, that was pretty awesome. Yeah. Like they could put a lot of detail into that. But yeah, as it would almost go like the fight would start, there would be 2 little small things, full page panel, and then 2 other small things, and then boom, it's done. And it was so like, oh, okay, that was just the end of the fight. Was it like the Wildabots one? That's the one I can remember the most when he destroys like this raging robot homicidal group. That's another one that we missed there. It was the Wildabots. Right, yeah. Or something like that. It's like this homicidal group of robots just want to kill people. I don't know. And this thing that's just been destroying everybody and they can't beat him. And like Hulk beats it in like 2 panels. Yeah, actually, and that was one of the funny parts because the robots keep saying enemy down, enemy down. They're like, they would detect an enemy and then they take it down, and then eventually Hulk says enemy mad, and they start saying enemy mad. It reminded me of Avengers. Yeah. And like when the jet starts shooting him, locked on enemy, and then he shoots him, he's like enemy angry, and he starts trying to pull backwards and stuff on the plane, and then Hulk jumps on him. Yeah, it kind of reminded me of that. I wonder if that was a little bit of a nod in Avengers. Could have been. Maybe. Who knows? I put after they leave the gladiator arena, a lot of the characters that were built up through that whole get pushed to the side. All for Hulk's story. And I get it's a Hulk book, but it's kind of like they built up this camaraderie between the guy and Korg. He's there every once in a while. That brood thing, that flying mosquito thing or whatever it was, you almost don't even see that. I thought it was dead for a while. Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot with the meek guy. Yeah. And a lot gets built with him because he kind of finds some remnants of his own hive. Yeah. I feel like that was weird. That was really weird. Yeah. It was like buried underneath something. Yeah. It's like someone didn't turn a rock. And from the Red King? Yeah. Or something like that? Because they basically built this little town on where his hive was. And then, like, I don't know, they turned a rock and they found his fucking remaining group of fucking people. And then the queen was locked away in a tower for some fucking weird reason.
Yeah.
And it was just like a lot of this thing. It was like, why was some of this done? I don't understand. I mean, I don't know if there's another thing that tells you why these people were doing things the way they were doing. Maybe it's just, I guess that's what they were just talking about, is all these different types of groups and stuff just don't get along. Mm-hmm. They all hate each other. They all want to murder each other. And stuff.
Yeah, I think I kind of disagree with you in the fact of I liked that it kept to Hulk. I felt that if it veered off a little bit too much, I was like begging to get back to the Hulk stuff. Because it was his story, and you're trying to see like him fit into this. He's basically saying, "No, I'm not a savior," and he's trying to come to terms with what like saving people, also being in this group that he doesn't really want to be in, and there's kind of a lot there, and that's more what I was interested in, not necessarily the side pieces.
Right, but what got annoying about that one is like he's like, "Oh, I'm going on my own," and then he'd be back with him. Right. It's like, you know what? No, actually, I'm going this way. And then he'd be back with him. And it was just like this repetitive thing. There's this thing with The Walking Dead that you and I agree on now at this point. The Walking Dead has got to a point where they can never be happy.
Right.
The show obviously can't just have them chilling out in the prison or just, actually right. just building it, because that's what happened on the farm, right? So chaos has always got to ensue, right? People got to die. And it just seems like at this point, it's just going to be a common occurrence. They build a civilization for 3 seconds and it gets destroyed.
Yeah.
And it kind of just became that thing in the book to me. It just kind of like, okay, here we go. We built up, they escape. They're on their own. Okay, chaos again. And then it's calm again, chaos, back and forth. And it just then he wants to leave and he comes back. And then he wants to leave and he comes back. And it's just like, okay, you can use that once.
Right. All right. Maybe twice.
And that's what I have a problem with the ending. And this is where you and I apparently disagree from our prior chat before we started recording. I put the ending is probably the most incoherent thing in the novel. The Red King's dead, and then they're separate. And then the Red King's dead, peace. Then the Separatists start fighting. Peace. And then and then something else happens where Hulk has to go away. Peace. Mm-hmm. And then it just goes back, and then the ship decides just to fucking blow up for no reason. I guess the warp core gets damaged.
Right.
And then it just destroys everybody.
Right.
And again, Hulk just can't be happy. He gets to bang the hot gray chick, who I noticed by the end of the novel, her tits and ass got bigger. Because I remember in the beginning, like, she just looked normal, and then by the time he's boning her, like she
was pregnant.
So that's true. It's like, and then an up and then a down and an up and a down. Yeah. And they constantly kept doing that. Hulk had to fight this. Hulk had to do that. Then Hulk is, and I get what they were trying to do. I put this in here. I get what the novel is doing. It's taking extreme measures to show Hulk's true change of heart and his sacrifices. I get that. I do get that. Showing what he's willing to do for the better of the planet. But it just kind of becomes muddled and just over the top. He's letting the spore guy suck on his arm while it heals and comes back, I guess, like that, to feed them enough energy to feed their children. And he just keeps doing all these extreme things to keep this, like, society together, to keep these people working. And it's just like, then the red chick, I forgot her name, and the meat guy. How many times were they going to kill each other?
Right.
It's like 4 times. And then finally he's like, all right, now you're going to fight to the death in the arena. Let's do it. Hulk intervenes. And it's just like, if you want to fight, then you got to fight me, or I'm going to kill you, or something like that.
Right.
And it just kind of came over the top. And it just kept doing it over and over and over again. I'm like, you're using the same trick to tell the same thing every time, and it just got annoying at the end.
Yeah, all right, that's fair. Based on how the front part of the book was, what I thought was once it finally got to, it did have those parts in there, but once it finally got to, I think it was like number 103 or something like that, and he's sitting there, with his chick by his side, and at that point he has come to the conclusion, maybe I am this savior. And I'm going to try to help these people. And I felt, it did have a lot of that shit in there. But I felt it was a little bit more smooth, and he's trying to, to help civilization. And then for it to get ripped away by the same people, as in his mind, by the same people who caused him to crash there in the first place. I thought that was pretty fitting, and it was a great setup for World War Hulk, and made me want to read that one, in my opinion.
The thing is that I felt like every time I thought the book was about to end, something happened. And then I'm like, okay, now it's done.
Right.
No. And then it goes again.
Something else
and it's just like, you think it's going to end like 4 times.
Right.
And then the one thing about
it's like the ending scene in Batman v Superman, where it's got the funeral, and then it goes back to the funeral, and then it fucking goes back to the funeral, and then it goes back to the coffin, and the sand flies up.
A little bit, but not as well done. Bagpipes are awesome.
Yeah, exactly. The Amish.
Oh yeah, that's right. The Amish, the Amish casket guy. Yeah, with the rubber tires. That was fucking great. Oh, he got a flat. Anyway, it just kind of like it bugged me a little bit, and then I was trying to figure out. Maybe you can shed some light on this. The ship was all of a sudden like in the middle of this square. Like, and they build like a sideshow prop off of it or something. Like they had the little kids like playing with it. It's like someone moved the ship because it was inside the castle,
right?
And then so somehow it's back outside now, and it's in the middle of this thing, and it just starts beeping, and then it says like warp drive damaged or something, and he tries to chuck it up in the air. And out of all the bombs that have been dropped in this thing, because like 100 bombs were dropped in this thing. Yeah,
he actually jumps at one of them and like
tanks the shit out of it.
Yeah, I think it was being dropped by the Red King, I want to say, and yeah, he just destroys
all the flames, all the bombs and stuff. Somehow this little ship's warp core drive blows up, wipes out fucking everything.
Yeah,
and so it was just like, okay,
and he's already just standing there on his own little
Superman at the courtroom,
right? Yeah, pretty much.
and it just kind of like, okay, come on, like, and just I just want to know. I don't know if the Red King guy set the ship up as a backup plan to self-destruct at one point, or was that supposedly our heroes, the Avengers, had that ship to eventually set to detonate, so he couldn't try to come back. Like Banner could fix it or something?
Yeah, that's kind of...
But it seems like to me it would kill him.
Yeah, I was actually kind of confused with those panels. I had to back up a little bit because it seemed like the kids were just mocking it, and he was getting pissed off at the kids.
Yeah.
That's what it seemed like to me. And then as I'm reading, I'm like, oh no, that was actually happening. And then I had to read the panels again, and I'm like, okay, it's not the kids who were saying that. I thought they like heard the...
they were saying beep beep?
Yeah, and they heard the the transmission or whatever that kept replaying, and they were saying that. That's how I first read it. So I was kind of confused by that. And I definitely I get your point, because there's the one part where I can't remember how it happens. It's something that the Red King does, and the world starts separating, and then fucking Hulk jumps in there and he brings it back together.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
he just has a magical detonation thing that just apparently splits the world.
Right.
That it has no explanation of what's happening, and it's like he just cut the tape that was holding it together.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, pretty much. But then it does have this kind of epic moment, because it's like, what's one of Hulk's nicknames? World Destroyer or something? Yeah, World Breaker.
Yeah,
and then
he's World Fixer. Or
yeah, yeah. I wish I would have written it down. It was a little bit more epic than we made it sound.
Whatever.
But yeah, then somehow he pulls himself out of the magma, or I don't know.
It was kind of funny because you were talking about how you wanted to read War Hulk after this, and I felt like this was a little cheap side story to get to World War Hulk.
Oh, it definitely is.
Which I think is is the big one, and the one we should probably be reviewing.
Yeah,
is what I put.
I would definitely agree with that. Just based on the way that it started and the way that it ended, is they just wanted to have a reason for him to come back.
Yeah, and wreck everybody.
Yeah, and whoop the shit out of the Avengers.
Yeah. It kind of felt like they took everything away from him again.
Mm-hmm.
Like we said, the thing blows up and pretty much just wipes out everything.
Yeah.
It pretty much smoked. I think there's like some of his friends stay, like the Brute thing, Korg, a couple other people are still alive, and they want to know.
But his wife, because he eventually marries her, and then
she was tanking everything just like him. She was standing in lava and shit before, but now
that's true. All of a sudden, that wipes her out.
Yeah.
Did you catch the part where there's some interesting scenes in this? Like at the beginning, the Hulk, I'm pretty sure he fucks two chicks. When he's like in the arena area and he's like walking through, and then he's talking with someone, and then there's two chicks that keep peeking through these curtains, and then eventually he like ignores the person who he's talking to, and then he walks in between the curtain with the two chicks. And so I'm like, okay, so he bangs two chicks. He rides a dinosaur at some point.
Yeah.
Like everyone else has these weird ass like turtle things, and then he's got this fucking Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Because he punched it and said sit or something like that.
Yeah, pretty much. But then another part I thought was weird is he's holding a child, or his wife is, and the Red King drops a bomb, and she gets it was his wife. And I want to say, and the child is like, oh, I'm scared.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's like incinerated. I'm like, holy shit.
And she's
that's pretty
ashes.
dark. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was pretty crazy. And then at the end, you know, when Hulk is jumping, you know, and trying to like save the kids because the thing is about to explode and that incinerates some kids. So I'm like, there's like the Red King, they do a good job, I feel like, at making you hate him because he's kind of a prick.
Oh, he's a douchebag. He's a lot like
the detective.
No.
Oh,
Wow.
Oh, that's not where you're going.
No, not that bad. No, just like the guy that played. God damn it! Whatever was that king's name or that emperor's name in Gladiator?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Who's the guy that played him?
I can't remember.
Ring of Fire. The guy that played that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I cannot remember the guy's name. Man. Anyway, I'm sure it's going to just blurt out here pretty soon.
Probably.
But I don't know. I just found the book to be so incoherent and just so, I don't want to say lazy, but it's just like, all right, let's talk explosions. And it just seemed like Hulk never really, he just kept hulking, which was cool.
Yeah.
Which was cool.
I do think his overall story arc was pretty solid. You know, what they were trying to accomplish with him was pretty cool. You know, him trying to find a purpose in his world because he was afraid of, you know, constantly hurting people. And then when he gets sent away, he's pissed about getting sent away. So he's trying to find his purpose. And I think ultimately he finds that and it gets taken away from him. And I think that's what pissed him off. Right. And sets up pretty good for World War Hulk. But I completely agree with you. That's almost, I guess this is necessary to read Planet Hulk before we read that one, so we know why he's so mad.
Right.
But it definitely,
I could have read the last 5 pages and figured it out.
Yeah, that's true.
Instead of reading this whole thing.
Yeah.
The Gladiator portion of it, which we've kind of seen glimpses of in the Ragnarok trailer, I have a feeling not even half, maybe an eighth of that shit might be shown. Because Korg has been shown in the trailer.
Oh, he has?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a small glimpse of him shooting a gun.
Okay.
He's in the trailer, so we know you're going to have some probably team camaraderie with him and Hulk, whether or not they're going to have flashback forms, and it's probably not going to be as extreme, because Hulk is about one of the... I've read some Superman stuff where he's just OP'd. But this, he fucking took everything. He's like swimming in lava, like...
And he literally put a world back together from its core.
Yeah, he put it back. Yeah, that's pretty much all you actually need to say, really. I mean, he was just so overpowered.
Yeah.
It was fucking crazy how he was just tanking. He was purposely getting set on fire, and it was just to kill the spore thingies, and it was just like, good God. Like, there was one point where they had a nice little art thing where his hair was half burnt.
Yeah.
And his face was kind of fucked up from taking facefuls of lava.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, so he's just got a bad hair day now after taking a face full of lava.
Honestly, other than, like, the Hulk Buster, I don't know what the Avengers could fucking do.
Yeah, that's
Hawkeye is like, pew, pew. Like, I don't know.
Hit him in the dick.
I don't really know what they could do.
Oh, man. Yeah, maybe that's the reason why they send his ass away. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I don't think much of that Gladiator stuff's going to be in it, because there's some extreme stuff and a lot of weird characters that the MCU is way too pussies to try to put in.
Yeah. Well, it's essentially like the feeling that I got watching the Civil War movie based on the graphic novel. Graphic novel is nothing like the movie, and it'll probably be like that. There's like pieces to it to kind of, imagery and certain things like that for Civil War that are in the graphic novel. It's probably going to be like that.
The Grandmaster is probably going to be somewhat like the Red King, but probably not to the extreme of killing children and shit. But he's the one running this thing, you know.
Yeah.
He's going to be the one running this thing. He's probably going to be a pompous douchebag, because that's how who's that guy playing him?
Man.
Wow, we're doing terrible on names. Goldblum.
Yes, thank you. Jeff Goldblum.
That's how Goldblum plays.
Woo.
He's probably going to play a pompous guy. The Valkyrie chick, I can see, is going to kind of fit into the shadow chick, the gray chick. Mm-hmm. She's probably not going to fuck Thor, but she's going to be that one that's on the side, and she's going to turn, and she's going to be on Hulk's side. So you can kind of see a little bit of a correlation there. He's got a right-hand woman in this case, just like the Red King did. So there's some small things. Like I said, Korg is in it. But I have a feeling maybe they'll show some flashbacks of the trials he went through and getting captured.
That would be kind of cool.
Just like
how he ends up there obviously is going to be different, but we need to know how the fuck, like, why is he there? Why is
how
he
he built the team and who's he built? There's probably going to be some flashbacks to that. and they might have some tie-ins with this. Maybe he's beating up robots or something. That's probably the safe route for the MCU.
Yeah,
because they're not going to show him
and
beating the fuck out of bugs
maybe
or
even
something.
having that same maybe having that same scene, you know, with like the robots and enemy down and you know, enemy mad thing. That'd be cool. And that's totally MCU. That type of dialogue.
One last thing I want to point out before we get into our Incredible Hulk review is that I did watch the animated Planet Hulk movie, and I was curious what the difference was. And there is some major differences. Basically, they trim a lot of the crap that's in this book, and they take a lot of stuff out.
Does it flow a little bit better in the movie? Okay.
It flows a little bit better, and it stays in the Coliseum area a long time. Like, there's a lot of gladiator stuff.
Okay.
And it dwells on that. It's not 2 panels or 3 panels of action. It sticks on that thing, and it's pretty much, that's like the first 45 minutes of the movie is almost all in the Coliseum.
Okay.
And for the most part. But the one thing that was really weird, and just like in the book, they have their third win in the Coliseum, they get their freedom. In the book, it was Silver Surfer that was trapped there and being manipulated just like the Hulk was, because there's like these little chest things. We didn't point that out before. There's these little chest things that control them.
But then you find out that Hulk could have ripped it off from the beginning.
Yeah, apparently.
He kind of does that at one point.
Yeah, he knocks everything off. Like, they just get knocked off, and then the Surfer takes them off or something.
He rips the Surfers off.
Yeah.
And then eventually, or I think he smashes the Surfers and then rips it off.
Yeah.
And then eventually he overpowers his, and then he's able to rip it off or some shit. I don't remember.
So the only big difference between the one that I thought was very odd is that in the book, like I said, Silver Surfer's their third battle to get their freedom. In the animated movie, it's Beta Ray Bill, who's this horse-faced guy that's basically a Thor guy that's horse-faced. He wears the Asgardian shit, and he's got a magical hammer.
All right.
But his hammer looks a little different. A little gayer. And and he is the character that they have him fight. And then the animated movie pretty much ends on a high note. It doesn't have the nuclear explosion that pretty much wipes anybody out that could make Hulk happy. This one, he's just chilling on the throne. One of the things I thought was funny about the animated movie, it came out in 2010 when when Hulk is on the ship and he's getting the message, just like they do in the graphic novel. In the graphic novel, it's Reed Richards who's telling him, like, hey, sorry, Bruce, you know, it's not safe, and blah, blah, blah. It's a lot of Reed Richards. In the animated movie, there is a silhouette that you can maybe say is Reed Richards. And then it has, like, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, maybe somebody else in the background. I couldn't quite tell. But it's predominantly Iron Man telling him the message. Unlike in the graphic novel, it was Reed Richards. And I just thought that was kind of funny. The novels, they'll use characters like that, but I felt like they did in the animated movie. The reason why they didn't is because Fox owns those characters, Silver Surfer and Reed Richards. So I'm pretty sure they can still use them, but they probably don't want to give any kind of fucking exposure of those characters on their animated movie.
I'd be interested to find out how it works, because that might be something where they have to get permission to. In the animated movie, which is probably similar to the live action, versus, you know, Marvel Comics is Marvel Comics. They still have the rights to all their shit, you know. So that's probably,
that might be true. Maybe just when it comes to like movies, the filming and stuff like that. Maybe they can't do it, and they just try to cop out with the silhouette that kind of looks like all you can really tell is the hairstyle, kind of how he has the twirl and the thing, and it's basically silhouette. He's black faced and everything. I mean, he's not trying to look black. It's silhouette, shadow face. It's just kind of funny. Just something I noticed.